Chapter 6 is all about subject-verb agreement. And before I get into the material of the chapter, I just wanted to make a brief comment. I've said before that people who read tend to write better because they already have ingrained in their mind what is correct and what sounds correct. And I think that subject-verb agreement is one of those that the more you read, the more you can be helped by this, because sometimes it's really hard to determine if something is singular or plural and how to match up your subject and your verb. So if it sounds correct to you, if it just makes sense to you, it might be correct. Go with your instinct. Again, it just might sound correct. So there's my little cheat for the for this topic. And again, people who read tend to pick up on that more quickly, because sometimes grammar is very, very picky and very hard to prove and make sense to yourself. So if it makes sense, go with it. All right, so quick flashback before we move on to what subject-verb agreement is. I just want to remind you what a subject is and what a verb is. Hopefully you've got it figured out. If not, here's some extra help. So your subject is a noun phrase, or a pronoun that is doing the action of the sentence. It could be a single word, it could be multiple words. And the verb is the action of the sentence, usually one word, sometimes two if you have a helping verb with a linking verb. Okay, so hopefully we've got that nailed down. So subjects and verbs are always singular or plural. They always have a number associated with them, and they're either singular or plural. So I have a list here of examples to show you that. So dogs, plural, more than one dog. And the plural of the verb to eat is eat. So 3 dogs eat. The dogs eat. Singular, cat is singular. Eats is singular. The cat eats. Now this looks really weird because eat doesn't have an S and eats has an S, but eats is singular. So don't let this kind of stuff throw you off. Again, this is why using your ear and your common sense and your experience is very helpful, because you know that 3 dogs eat. 3 dogs don't eat. You know that. So eat is plural, eats is singular. Disregard the S. Don't let that trick you. People. People is a collective noun. It is referring to more than one person. So the plural of to be is are. People are. I is singular. So the singular of to be is am. I am. Hopefully that makes sense. And in order for your sentences to agree, your subjects have to agree with your verb. If your subject's plural, your verb has to be plural. Prepositional phrases can make it trickier to identify your subject. So prepositional phrases add detail to what your subject is. So the one trick you can find is to find the simple subject. Remember, the complete subject is all of the words that make up your subject. So technically, citizens of this country would be the complete subject, and elect is your verb. So the simple subject is citizens, because it can be replaced by they. I believe I provided that test as an idea. If you can replace what you think is a subject with they, and then it makes sense with the verb, then you know that that's your subject. So citizens of this country, they, elect a president every 4 years. So citizens, they, since they is plural, citizens is obviously plural. The S is kind of a clue. Don't get hung too much up on that S. But we know that the subject is plural, so the verb is plural. Okay? Even if you have a sentence in reverse word order, just find what your subject is, the simple subject, and the simple subject will help you determine if the subject is singular or plural, and then you can adjust your verb accordingly. Okay? You just have to look, and you have to think about what you're doing and what you're looking for. So indefinite pronouns, if you remember, are pronouns that refer to a general group of people as opposed to a specific person or a specific group. So anyone and everyone are both indefinite pronouns. So you identified them in the same way as prepositional phrases, which I just talked about on the last slide. Identify the one word that is the simple subject. So here, it's easy. Anyone, singular. No. Does anyone know? Okay, so that works. And then everyone, even though both of them address multiple people, it's still singular because of the one. Anyone, everyone is sick. Okay? So again, just like with your prepositional phrases, just choose the one word when you have, since this is technically a prepositional phrase. So just find the word that identifies what the simple subject is. And then determine if it's singular or plural and write your verb accordingly. And it's all based on context. Context is very important with subject-verb agreement. So what do you do when you've got compound subjects? Compound subjects, remember, is when you have multiple subjects doing the action, doing the verb. So the way to determine this is what your conjunction is that combines the subject. So in the first example, the dog and the cat eat their food quickly. So when it's and, the whole subject is kind of taken as one. No, excuse me, it would be plural. They're taken together. So you, again, just like I mentioned a couple slides ago, this can be replaced by they. They is plural. And so the verb has to be plural, which is eat. So they eat their food quickly. Okay, so what do you do when you have either or? Ta-da! That one depends on the closest subject. So here's the subject. Here's the subject. The subject closest to the verb, which is in green, is plural. So the verb needs to be green. So up here is taken collectively as a plural. So the verb is plural. Here, the only reason that the verb is plural is because the subject closest to it is plural. Hope that makes sense. If not, just review this, review the book. It should sink in rather quickly. It's just kind of a lot of information thrown at you at once. All right, so other tricks with subject-verb agreement. Don't get hung up on the S ending. Not all words that end in S are going to be plural. You have to look at what the word is. Okay? So S's do not necessarily mean more than one. With collective nouns, you have to determine if they're acting as a whole, as in the whole group is doing the action, then it's singular. If the members of the group are acting individually, the verb would be plural. I'm going to double check and make sure that that is correct, actually. Yes, that is correct. Okay, so whole, if the group is acting as a whole, it's singular. If they're individually, think of it as a whole group is unified and as one, so one is singular, and individually, it's a group of many, so it's plural. Try to think of it that way. With titles and proper nouns, they're always singular. That's one place that the S can get kind of tricky, but they're always singular, so don't let that trip you up. Okay, titles, proper nouns, singular. So you just have to look at the context of the word that you're trying to identify. Look for the subject, this simple subject, and have that match the verb. That's pretty much all that it comes down to. So take your time with it. Let me know if any of this is confusing in any way, and I'll do my best to straighten it out for you. Otherwise, keep up the great work. I guess I'm not done. Never mind. So what does all this mean? Go really slow when you edit. Take your time when you write. You want to make sure that the components of your sentence are adding up, because if you can take your time and do it right the first time, it's much easier than trying to catch it later. As I've already said, when it comes to editing, it's hard for you to edit your own work because you know what you're trying to say, but what you're trying to say isn't what is necessarily on the page. And again, just another note on context. It's the greatest determiner of what your number is between your subject and your verb. So just be aware. And if you have an issue and you don't know what to do, try revising the sentence completely. That sometimes helps if you're like, oh my gosh, I just don't know how to rework this. Well, start over. It's a sentence. It's not like rewriting an entire paper, which sometimes you have to do, but that's okay. So again, if you have any questions, let me know. Hopefully this makes sense, and hopefully you do okay with it. Just let me know.